and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. This week, we're giving you the recipe for Mary Mac's Irish stew. This is a really good stew, and I think you'll like it. There's a lot of steps in the prep, but that's just what we're going to do to build a really delicious broth for this stew. So what I'm going to do is go through the ingredients pretty much in order of use, and then I'll give you all the little tips and tricks as we go along through this recipe to build your delicious broth for the stew. So here we go. You'll need olive oil, probably 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, or a little bit more. 6 small regular old onions, cleaned and cut in half. So you want to cut them in half in the middle so that you have the 2 rounds, with the layers looking all round in them. I figured I better state that perfectly because you want them to come out a certain way. So 3 celery stalks cut into 1/2-inch thick slices, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 3 carrots cleaned and cut into 1/4-inch or 1/2-inch slices, 1 pound of button mushrooms, those little white button mushrooms, cleaned, stems trimmed, and cut in half if they're very big. If they're really little, you can leave them whole. 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of balsamic glaze, and you need 1.5 pounds of beef, either cubed stew meat, or you can get a 1.5 pound, nice lean 1.5 pound roast and cube it up yourself. 3 tablespoons of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of thyme, 1 tablespoon of parsley, 32 ounces of beef stock, 16 ounces of North Country Brewing Firehouse red ale, 1 bay leaf, 6 potatoes peeled and cubed, and you can soak those in cold water while you're doing all the other steps. Make the cubes make them how you like them for stew. I did them about 1.5 inch square cubes or chunks, but make them how you like them for stew. Okay? Here we go. First of all, you're going to heat a couple tablespoons of olive oil in a large skillet. You're going to add the garlic and the onions, and what you want to do is put the onions, the large size, down into the skillet so that you can brown that, and then you're going to add the celery with that. So you want to kind of keep things moving. You don't want the celery to brown up. You want to saute it, but if you kind of leave the onions sit, they'll get nice and brown, and then you can turn them real carefully with a set of tongs. So that's what I did. I moved them around a little bit so they didn't get stuck to the pan, but I left them the big side down, and I would pick up one, and check it. And once they get brown, just very carefully turn them over and brown the other edge of them, okay? Now you want to take your carrots and microwave them for about 1.5 to 2 minutes because you just want them to start to like pre-cook. And you're going to add them to the skillet to saute and just brown up just a little bit. You don't want them to be like burned to a crisp or something, but you want to just get a little tiny bit of brown on them, okay? Once your onions are browned and your celery is cooked a little bit and your carrots have a little bit of brown on them, you're going to take all of that out. You're also going to need, I should have said this first. Here we go. You're going to need a big Dutch oven to cook this in, or a big crock pot. And I apologize for not saying that first. You're going to have your Dutch oven there. And once you have all these things browned, you're going to take them and slide them into your Dutch oven, like with a rubber scraper or something like that. Do not clean the pan out completely, but get all of the vegetables out of it. And you can also lift the onions out of there and set them in the Dutch oven so they don't break apart. So just get everything into that Dutch oven. If you can keep the onions whole, that's kind of a good trick, but who knows? It doesn't matter. They're just there to eat. Okay, now back to the skillet. Put your skillet back on the heat, and you're going to add the 2 tablespoons of butter to that and another tablespoon of olive oil, and melt your butter and your olive oil together. And then you're going to add 1 tablespoon of your favorite balsamic glaze. If you have not cooked with balsamic glaze before, they sell it in the grocery store near where the vinegars are, and it's a kind of a syrupy balsamic vinegar that's been reduced. So There's a couple of good brands out there. Giarusa makes a nice brand that's very flavorful. You don't want to get anything with an odd flavor to it. So don't get like a raspberry or a fruit flavor of any sort. Just get regular old balsamic glaze, okay? So put a tablespoon of that in and stir that all up together, and then dump your mushrooms in and coat them with the butter, olive oil, and balsamic glaze mixture, and let them saute a little bit. You want to cook them until they're well coated. They look like they're beginning to cook, probably about 5 minutes. When you get to that point, pour your mushrooms and juice into the Dutch oven over those other vegetables. And now you're ready for the next part. So what you want to do is toss those cubes of beef in a mixture of your 3 tablespoons of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a half teaspoon of thyme, and a tablespoon of parsley. So mix those things together and then toss those beef cubes in them so they're nicely coated. You can do that in a plastic bag or a bowl, whichever you prefer. Once you have them coated, you want to heat that skillet back up again with 1 more tablespoon of olive oil and put the pieces of meat in there, and you want to brown those up real nice. Put them in, let them brown, take those tongs and turn them, and make sure you get all 6 sides of your cubes of beef browned nicely. Once they're all browned, you're going to remove those to the Dutch oven, just put them on top of the mushrooms. Now, once you get the beef in there, you can drain your potatoes that you've cubed and put those in over top of the beef. Now, return your pan to the heat, and you're going to put that 32 ounces of beef stock in. You can either buy pre-made canned beef stock at the grocery store, or you can use beef bouillon cubes and just do like a quart of water I usually use 5 bouillon cubes or 6 bouillon cubes to 1 quart of water and dissolve them. Or like I said, you can buy the prepared beef stock. Put that into the skillet, and what you want to do is deglaze that skillet. You want to get all those little bits of stuff that have stuck in there when you were cooking and break them loose and stir that around and heat that stock until it's nice and hot. You want to bring it to a boil, and then you're going to very carefully pour that stock over top of everything in that Dutch oven. Now, next, you're going to put a bay leaf right on top of it and very carefully pour 16 ounces of North Country Brewing Firehouse Red Ale in there. It'll foam up at first, but you'll be fine. So it comes in 12-ounce cans. So you're going to pour 1.5 cans in and then drink the other half of that second can. Put it in and just stir it very carefully to blend. You want to try to not break those onions up, but you want to get everything stirred up, and then put the lid on your Dutch oven and place it in a 325-degree oven for 3 to 4 hours, or in a large crock pot if you're doing it in a crock pot for 3 to 4 hours. You'll need like a 6-quart crock pot. One of those big oval ones would work fine. And you want it to cook for 3 to 4 hours on high, and make sure your potatoes are tender. Check it. But after, I think the last time I made it, I put it in the oven and I was checking it to make sure that the stew was like simmering in there. And it probably simmered for, by the time everything came up, the temperature and everything, it probably simmered for about 3 hours. And this stew is fantastic. The flavor of the stock is so good. It's not like a super thick stock like some stews are, where it's almost like a gravy, but it's thick. It has a density to it, but it just has the best flavor. I used a sirloin tip roast that I had in the freezer and cut that up from my neighbor's grass-fed beef that I bought, and it cooked up. It was fantastic. So this is a very good stew. It's got a really great flavor to it. The Irish Red Ale adds this very, very nice flavor to the broth. It's just it makes the broth very rich, as does the balsamic glaze. That was really neat. I'd never done that before, and I thought, I'm going to try that because I didn't I was trying to do something a little bit different to give the mushrooms some flavor in the stew. I've never put mushrooms in stew before, and I thought that would be a neat thing to try. So it really made the mushrooms really flavorful, and I wanted to make sure I got this out before St. Patrick's Day so that you could do something, like if you're working, you could actually prep this the day before and put it in your crock pot and put it in the refrigerator and then put it on the next day, and it would be ready to go. Or you could get up super early in the morning and do that, but I am not doing that. But this is a really good St. Patrick's Day dish you could have, or just something great on a cold day. Hope you give it a try and let me know what you think of it. I really like it.
And make sure to check us out online on Facebook and Instagram at Mary Mac Bakehouse, on Twitter at Mary Mac Podcast, and on our website, marymacpodcast.com.
Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.